And the backdrop for this summit with President Widodo is regional uncertainty and aggression from China, including the interception of an Australian surveillance plane by a Chinese fighter jet in recent weeks. Earlier today, I caught up with Richard Marles, who's the acting Prime Minister and Defence Minister. Acting Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles, thanks for your time.
Great to be here.
Despite that aggressive act that we saw from the Chinese in the South China Sea with our surveillance aircraft, will those missions continue?
They will, and it's really important that they do. The South China Sea is a really important body of water for Australia because most of our trade goes through the South China Sea. So as a nation, we are deeply invested in the global rules-based order applying to this body of water. We're deeply invested in the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which provides for freedom of navigation on the high seas. And so we're going to continue to be involved in activities which ensure that those rules apply. What our aircraft was doing during that incident was the kind of routine work that we've done over the course of decades. We were acting within our rights at international law. It's really important that we continue to do that.
So the P-8 surveillance aircraft was intercepted. How close did it come to a calamity?
It was a very dangerous incident, and the J-16 flew very close to the P-8. And in flying in front of it and then releasing the bundle of chaff, that was a very dangerous moment. As I said yesterday, our crew responded in a really professional way, in a way which would make us all feel proud. But the aircraft was put at risk and lives were put at risk.
Do you think the fighter jet pilot sought to bring down our aircraft?
I don't think that's what was happening. But this was a dangerous incident, and the lives of our crew were placed at risk, and that's unacceptable.
How much risk is there that these sorts of flare-ups lead to something that can get out of control? It's a very risky scenario.
I think it's obviously really important that there is the best dialogue that we can have so that that risk is not there, but it's really important that we are asserting our rights in the South China Sea because it goes to our national interest. You think about it, all of our trade to China itself, but to Korea, Japan, both of those three countries are in our top 5 trading partners. All of that trade traverses the South China Sea. It's a body of water which matters greatly to Australia's national interest, and it's very important that we are playing our part along with other members in the global community in asserting the global rules-based order in respect of the South China Sea.
And our government, our Defence Force, has made its displeasure known. What sort of representations have been made to the Chinese?
Well, we made representations through our Defence Force, and I instructed that to occur. It was important that they understand that we had real concerns about this incident and about the threat that it represented for the safety of our crew.
We've seen other aggressive actions with a Canadian aircraft on a UN mission, actually, around a similar time. A German vessel was harassed by PRC fishing boats a couple of months ago. Does this tell you that it's not a rogue pilot involved here, that this is almost this is a coordinated intimidation?
I think what we've seen from China over a number of years now is an attempt to assert sovereignty in respect of the South China Sea, which is inconsistent with the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. We've seen China seek to militarise the South China Sea in a way which is unhelpful. It's really important in the face of that we meet that challenge because that's where our national interest lies. And when we talk about Australia facing as complex a set of strategic circumstances as we have since the end of the Second World War, which is a statement in which I very much believe, this is the reason why. As China seeks to shape the world around it in a way that we've not really seen before, it does throw challenges up for Australia, which it's really important that we meet.
It's interesting, though, we're not, in this sort of scenario, we're not being singled out, are we? While we see it happen to our aircraft, it's happened to Canadian aircraft, German vessels. It's not something where Australian capabilities being singled out.
I don't think it's particular to Australia, but I think we do have a particular interest in the South China Sea because of the extent to which we have our trade traverse it. And obviously there are other countries who have trade going through the South China Sea as well, for whom that body of water is very critical to their national interest as well. But from our point of view, it matters that there is freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, that our trade is able to traverse it in accordance with the rules as we understand them under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And that's why it's really important in turn that we're engaging in activities which exercise our rights under that global rules-based order, and that's what we've done for decades, and that's what we'll continue to do in the future, notwithstanding this incident.
The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi used the last leg of his Pacific tour to say that China wants to see a reset in relations with Australia, where we should find common ground where possible to resolve differences. So that language is quite different to the other behaviours we're seeing. Do you have any hope of a rapprochement between Australia and China?
Look, I think the relationship is challenging. I don't think there's any point in pretending it's otherwise. We will seek to go about our foreign relations in a way which is professional, which does invest in diplomacy. In these matters, I think a lot about President Teddy Roosevelt, who talked about, go quietly in the world carrying a big stick and you will go far. That was his view, and that I think is what will inspire the way in which we go about our foreign policy. But where our national interest is at stake, we will be completely uncompromising in pursuing our national interests, as obviously we have to be.
The Chinese ambassadors talked about reopening dialogue, that China might be open to that. Is that something that your government will pursue? And I know you're attending the Shangri-La dialogue, a major defence dialogue in Singapore this week. Will you seek out the Chinese representatives to have a discussion?
Look, we have a number of bilats that we're seeking to organise. China is not one of them. We will be focusing on pursuing our national interests. The language that we use is going to be sober. We're not into the chest beating that we've seen from the former government over a long period of time. We're into meaningful action, and that's where we will be focused in pursuing our national interests.
So you're not seeking a bilateral. Is there a chance that on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue you might have a chance to reach out to the Chinese officials?
Look, it's a busy conference, and there are a number of bilaterals that we are pursuing. As I say, China is not one of them. Look, our focus right now is on making sure that we get the actions right. We're not going to engage in the chest beating that we've seen from the former government, but our focus is on making sure that we get the actions right. That's why we have, in a very sober way, tried to describe what has occurred in the South China Sea and make it very clear that we're not going to be deterred from pursuing those actions in the future because they matter to us. We're going to make sure we get the hard power equation right by dealing with the question of our submarines going forward. The capability gap that the former government has opened up for the country is a real problem. It's a problem that needs to be solved, and it's very much at the front of my agenda. And we need to make sure that we are engaging in our near region in the Pacific in a way which earns the right, or earns the trust, I should say, of the countries of the Pacific, such that we are their natural partner of choice. These are the things that we are going to focus on, which are based on our action. We are not going to engage in the chest beating. We are going to be about the doing.
The Prime Minister's in Indonesia today, hence your acting Prime Minister. Do you see Indonesia, the vast archipelago not far to our north? I mean, obviously it's important in an economic sense, 270 odd million people, but in a strategic sense it's also crucial. Is it fair to say though that Indonesia and ASEAN more broadly tend to be a bit more cautious in pushing back against China? So I guess, do they agree with us in terms of our concerns about China's aggression?
Look, as I analyse it, I actually think that we share a lot in common in terms of the strategic circumstances that our countries face. I would say that in respect of ASEAN generally, I would say it in respect of Indonesia specifically. Indonesia is a critically important country for Australia, always has been, obviously. And it was Paul Keating who really saw the importance of the relationship, but particularly the importance of having a shared security engagement with Indonesia. And there is a close relationship between the Indonesian military and our own, and that's something we would want to continue. I think it's important that we breathe new energy into that side of the relationship, as we do with the economic side. It is good that there is a free trade agreement now with Indonesia, but we've got to actually materialise that with more trade. And the truth is that our economic relationship with Indonesia over the journey has been underdone, and it's really important we get that to a different place, both for the benefit of Indonesia and ourselves.
Finally, Defence Minister, we're here in the Defence Headquarters. You've decided to have your office, a permanent office in Canberra, here in the building, along with the top brass and the senior members of the Defence Department. Why is that?
Oh, well, I think it's important that we're not, as ministers, separate from the department that we are sworn to administer. That's certainly how I see it.
You're the first Defence Minister to do it, as I understand it.
That's my understanding too, but I felt it is a really important thing that I'm here, that it's not a question of when we meet with the top brass, do they come to see me or do I come to see them? We are one and the same. This is the department that I've been sworn to administer. This is the place that I want to be based. These are the people that I want to get to know, rub shoulders with, see me around and understand their work better. For me, it was a very important statement, but I think it will be, it makes sense in terms of the mission that I've been asked to do, which is to administer the Department of Defence.
Acting Prime Minister Richard Marles, appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks, Kieran.